live stream the meeting.
Charge 93%.
Then 93%.
Battery.
Huh?
ఇది ఆపేయండి లేకపోతే మీకు ఎక్కువ కనబడుతుంది. ఇది క్లోజ్ చేసేయండి. ఈ విండో క్లోజ్ చేసేయండి. ఇది ఇక్కడ వస్తుంది. ఇక్కడ వస్తుంది పైన అది ఇదంతా క్లోజ్ చేసుకోవచ్చు. జూమ్ దగ్గరికి అంతే.
వాళ్ళే కనబడరు నాకు.
వాళ్ళు జాయిన్ అయితే కనబడతారు.
జాయిన్ అయితే వస్తారండి.
అడ్మిట్ అని అడుగుతుంది.
ఇక్కడ వస్తుందా?
వాయిస్ వస్తుంది. మాట్లాడితే వస్తుంది. మాస్టర్ వినిపిస్తుంది. మాట్లాడుకోవాలి. కావాలంటే మాస్టర్ మీరు ఇక్కడ పార్టిసిపెంట్స్ దగ్గరికి వెళ్ళండి. ఇక్కడ ఉంది కదా, పార్టిసిపెంట్స్ దగ్గర ఎవరైనా వాళ్ళు వచ్చి జాయిన్ అయ్యి మాట్లాడితే ఇక్కడ మ్యూట్ చేసేయచ్చు మనం. Charger time. Everything.
నేను యూట్యూబ్లో కనబడుతున్నాను. యూట్యూబ్లో చూసేవాళ్ళందరికీ నేను కనబడుతున్నాను.
స్పీకర్ కనెక్ట్ చేసి ఉందా? కనెక్ట్ చేసి ఉందా?
స్పీకరా కనెక్ట్ చేసింది రావట్లేదా? ఫ్యాన్ సౌండ్ వస్తుందా? వాసుదేవ. హరి ఓం. శం నో మిత్రస్యం వరుణః శం నో భవత్వర్యమా శం న ఇంద్రో బృహస్పతిః శం నో విష్ణురుక్రమః నమో బ్రహ్మణే నమస్తే వాయో త్వమేవ ప్రత్యక్షం బ్రహ్మాసి త్వామేవ ప్రత్యక్షం బ్రహ్మ వదిష్యామి ఋతం వదిష్యామి సత్యం వదిష్యామి తన్మామవతు తద్వక్తారమవతు అవతు మాం అవతు వక్తారం. ఓం శాంతి శాంతి శాంతి. వాసుదేవ. సర్వవేదార్థతత్వజ్ఞం వేదార్థ ప్రతిపాదకం పురాణసార సర్వజ్ఞం కృష్ణం వందే జగద్గురుం. ప్రాచ్యపాశ్చాత్యదేశానాం సమన్వయ విధాయకం శాంతం సౌమ్యగుణోపేతం కృష్ణం వందే జగద్గురుం. ఓం అస్మద్గురుభ్యో నమః. So welcome to all our brothers and sisters. So we are here once again to continue our study of our Patanjali, Yogasutras of Patanjali. So we have been studying aphorism 25 in our last session. So in this aphorism, Patanjali says, he explains us that in him means about Ishvara. Because now it is all what is being explained by Patanjali is about Ishvara. So he says in this aphorism that in him, in Ishvara, the all knowledge, so the faculty of knowing all is like seed in the Ishvara, the Lord consciousness in us. It is like a seed in him. So the individual consciousness or jiva, the individual, can never surpass him. Because this jiva is a part of the Lord consciousness. Since jiva is the part of the Lord consciousness, since the Lord is the whole, the totality, the total and the background of everything. So the intelligence of jiva can never surpass the intelligence of the Lord consciousness. That is what is given as, that is what you find as explained by Patanjali here. So about Ishvara, because all this time we have been studying to come nearer and nearer to Ishvara. So therefore, Ishvara is the one. Ishvara is the Lord of the whole universe. So the intelligence of Ishvara or the Lord is beyond measure, immeasurable. So Sarvagnya means knowing all knowledge. That is Sarvagnya. So this Ishvara has the seed of all knowledge, all knowing in him. That is what you find in Ishvara. So therefore, that means last time also Why he cannot be surpassed? That we have studied last time also. Once again, we have to, because this subject is an intricate subject. We have to be very clear, because this is about Ishvara and the individual. That means about all of us. Every one of us is an individual, and every one of us, we are in Ishvara. Therefore, Ishvara is in every one of us. The Lord consciousness is there, present in every one of us. But what he says now, he explains that the intelligence of the individuals like us, we may be knowing many things, but even then,
И каждый из нас находится в самом Ишваре.
we cannot exceed the intelligence of the Lord, because the intelligence of the Lord is beyond our imagination or beyond our measure. That is the reason. So knowing everything, knowing all, we may feel that we know everything. But even though we know so many things, but still cannot be compared with that of the Lord. So Sarvajna in this aphorism, what he says, Patanjali Sarvajna. Sarvajna means knowing all. So, because Ishvara is pervading the whole of the creation, the whole of the universe. Therefore, he knows everything what is there in the whole of the universe. But we individuals, it is not possible to know everything, because we are just a little part of the whole. So Ishvara is having the seed of the intelligence, all knowing, all knowledge. So it is the seed of all knowledge which is there with Ishvara. We can never exceed, we can, by any means, we cannot even purchase, we cannot gather, we cannot purchase. By no means we can exceed the intelligence of Ishvara. That is what Patanjali says here. Because how much we can know, we using our intelligence, how much we can know. What we know will be always limited. This we have to remember. But suppose if I say, no, I have unlimited knowledge, that is ridiculous. Why? Because we are here we have to apply the relationship between the container and contained. Knowledge is the content, and our mind or our intelligence is container. So this container is not so big like that of the Lord of the universe. Cannot imagine. Suppose we want to collect the water from a river or from a waterfall or spring. So we may carry a container, a can. We can do that according to our capacity. So one may take a small container, one may take a container of 5 liters, one may take a container of 10 liters or 50 liters maybe. But there will be a limit. So we can gather only that much of water in it according to the capacity of that container. Beyond that, we cannot put some more water into that container. The same manner, our knowledge of the individuals, even though there is the spark of the Lord in us, but still we cannot contain, we cannot have so much in us. So therefore, suppose we want, Patanjali asks us to make a list of what all we know in this creation. What all we know, we are asked to make a list, prepare a list. So we can put all what we know, all the names of the persons, name of the objects, all the names, everything in this, whatever we know. But even then, it has a limitation. Because how much will be the list what we can prepare? Maybe our list may contain 100,000 names, or if I am so much more intelligent and I know so much more, maybe a million. But it will be limited. Beyond that, we cannot, because our container is limited. But that of the Lord of the universe is unlimited. So the capacity to contain the knowledge for us is limited when compared to the knowledge of the Lord of the universe, because he has the seed with him. Seed of the knowledge is existing with the Lord Ishvara. Sarvajna means all knowing, seed of all knowing, all knowledge is there with him. Suppose we want to know more, we want to measure. So every creature occupies some space in this creation. Let us think of that. Suppose you and me, every one of us, every human being, and every being, other beings also, we are in this creation. We are the part of this creation. We are on this earth globe. So wherever we are there, whether we are standing or sitting or laying down, we are occupying certain space, part of space. Isn't it? So every one of us we occupy certain part of the space of this universe. That is the truth. So if one of us is very little structure, so he occupies little space. But if somebody like me will occupy more space, and let us also think of our building where we are there. It has occupied certain space. And then let us think of the city where we are staying. It occupies some space on this earth. And finally, let us think of our earth globe. It also occupies certain part of space in the whole of creation. But we, how much it may be, even our earth globe or the globes of other planets, or the whole of our solar system occupies certain space. But even then, we cannot occupy absolutely all the space that is existing in this creation. Never. So therefore, since Ishvara, the Lord of the universe, is, his form is the space, unlimited space. So when compared to his magnitude, our magnitude is very less. So all the knowledge what we can have, all the intelligence what we can have, put together, will always be limited when compared to the unlimited knowledge of the creator of the Ishvara, the Lord of the universe. So that is what he says in this aphorism. So therefore, Ishvara means he is the indweller. He is the indweller, the Lord, indweller. He is everywhere in this creation. So therefore, he has the seed that is most important in this aphorism. He had the seed of knowledge. So he is in every one of us as the space which we have occupied, the volume of space which we have occupied. So that much he is there in us, in everyone, in every one of us. Therefore, he is there occupying the whole creation, and he is filling every being in this creation. So his intelligence, his knowledge is unsurpassed. Nobody can surpass him. That is what he says. Then, when we start to realize him, his presence, and live in him consciously, then what happens? This is the next thing what he is explaining us. So, when we live with him, he is there in every one of us, that is true. But we are not conscious of his existence in us. That also we have to accept. Unless we start we enter into the yogic practice and yogic way of living, we can never, we are not aware of his existence. We are not aware of the existence of Ishvara in us. So we are just entered, we have entered the practice and we are trying to practice this to get into awareness, to get aware of his presence in us and in everything and everybody around us. That is what we are trying to practice. So therefore, he is Ishvara because he is unlimited. His capacity is unlimited. He is the Purusha. We are also Purusha. We are also called Purusha. Because we are just like him. Because since Ishvara, the Lord is there in us as the indweller. So we are all, also all of us, we are also called Purusha like him. But he is the purest Purusha, the Purusha absolute, the Purusha purest. That is why he is called Purusha Vishesha. Shesha means the Purusha who is devoid of all impurities, who is very pure, who is the complete form of Purusha. So when we start to practice yoga, so that is what he is explaining, he is going to explain here. When we start practicing yoga in our life, then you may ask, suppose if we practice yoga and we get stabilized in the yogic state, then is it possible that we also like him can become all-knower? When we practice yoga and we attain the yogic state as samadhi, because we have started study of these aphorisms with our inclination to know what is yoga and to practice it and to live in the yogic state. That is our goal, to practice this. Why we are trying to practice yoga is to attain yogic way of living, to live in yoga, yogic state always. For that we are constantly practicing. We are applying abhyasa and vairagya that we have studied. So now, when we get stabilized in the yogic state, can we also become all-knower like Ishvara? That is the question. As long as we are just not yet attained, we have not attained yogic state, we are just practitioner, and we have not got complete realization of Ishvara in us, then our intelligence is not so much like that of the intelligence of the Lord Ishvara. Okay. He cannot be surpassed. His intelligence cannot be surpassed by our intelligence. But the question is, suppose If we we reach the yogic state, and we are stabilized in the yogic state, that all the time we experience the presence of the Lord in us, then is it possible that we also can be the all-knowing capacity that is, but that cannot happen. That's very clearly given by our Patanjali in this effort. We may start practicing yoga. For some years, we can keep practicing until we get that state. We get stabilized in the state. We can get that. Maybe after 10 years or 15 years, or maybe in the next birth. It makes no difference, because it is a continuous process. One need not think that if anyone leaves the body during the period of practice of yoga, and when he attains another body, once again he has to practice from the beginning. No, the Lord clearly explained in Bhagavad Gita. Don't worry, he said, because Arjuna has put that question to the Lord. My Lord, if I could not complete the process of realization, I could not complete the process of attaining yogic state. In the middle, if I leave the body, if I attain death to the physical body, then what happens? In the next birth, when I attain next birth in another body, then I have to start once again from the beginning. All that what I attained has gone in this birth, and everything is lost in this birth. The Lord said, no, 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 you will never lose that. An effort to get into yogic state will never go waste. That's what the Lord said. When you read this in Bhagavad Gita, very clearly he said to Arjuna. What the Lord said is, when you leave the body while you are making an effort to be in the yogic state, then you will get another body where you find very suitable environment and conditions to continue your practice from that stage where you have left your body in the previous birth. From there itself you will continue. From the beginning, from the childhood itself, it will happen. That's what the Lord said. You have the right to choose your next birth to continue your effort in the yogic way of living. That will be continued. All the other things you may lose all the other things. You may lose your property, you may lose your memory of your family, you may lose everything when you leave the body. But the effort which you have put to get stabilized in yoga will never be lost. That is what the Lord said. So therefore, the Lord is always in that state because He is the Lord. He is Ishvara. Ishvara is always in that state. But when we practice, we can be stabilized. We are also in that state along with him. But even then, our intelligence can never surpass his intelligence. That is very clear. That is what he says. That is what he said in this aphorism. It cannot be surpassed. Never think that you can be equal or you can surpass his intelligence. Never. Those who tried to surpass him became the demons. We find in the scriptures the stories of these demons who were working against the divine law. They always try to surpass in their intelligence, surpass in their knowledge. They try to surpass that of the Lord of the universe, but that cannot happen. Because they are also just a part of the whole universe. Lord is there, he filled the whole universe with his presence. So how can a small little part can surpass the whole? That can never happen. But one thing what he explains in this aphorism is, as long as you are aware of his presence, as long as you live completely in this awareness of his presence, then your consciousness is stabilized in him. Then you can be like him, but you cannot be him. So as long as your consciousness is there, stabilized in his presence, that is here. This is the very subtle point which we have to understand. Because he is the Ishvara, and we are the individual, a part of Ishvara. We are not away from him. We are not different from him, but we are a part of the whole. That we have to remember. Every being is creation is a part of the Ishvara because he contains this part of him. Every being, which we call living or non-living, every being contains the divine spark. So that is very clear. But that doesn't mean that we can be equal to him. This is where we have to always try to understand and apply this in our life from the teachings of these aphorisms. So that is what he says. So that is what he explains in this aphorism. Sarvagnya Bija, the seed of all knowledge. He contains the seed of all knowledge. He himself is the seed of all knowledge, from which the whole knowledge sprouts into a tree. So this is a tree which has come out from the seed, and the Lord exists as the seed principle in every seed, as the principle of germination and expansion. He exists like a seed principle, as a seed principle. That is what he says. Therefore, so we have also we have Lord consciousness in it. We have every one of us is pervaded by the Lord. He is there. What is the difference between Ishvara and the individual then? Why we cannot be equal to him? What is the difference? He has also the intelligence. He has the knowledge. We have also the intelligence. We have also the knowledge. But what is the difference? The difference is he is the one who is as himself, who exists as himself, and who also exists in every one of us as the individual. But we, the individuals, we exist as the individual. We contain Ishvara in us as the individual. But none of us, we can exist as Ishvara, as the individual in others. So his capacity is different and our capacity is different. So we cannot compare to him. But in his presence, we can exist as himself. In his presence, as long as we are in his presence, how can we be, how long we be in his presence? As long as we do not forget his presence. There is the key. As long as we remember him as the in us and in everybody, in the whole of the universe, then we can be in his presence. He is always there, but our awareness is important. Whether we are aware of it or not, this makes the difference. He is always there. It is just like when I am sitting here in this room, as long as I am awake, I can see everything in this room. I can see every object, I can see everybody who is sitting here, I can see everything. Suppose sitting here, if I slipped into sleep, my eyes were closed, if I got into sleep, then all these things are existing there only. But they are not existing to me because I lost the awareness. You see? This is our experience every day, but we don't care to observe all these things in our life. We have to observe what is happening in our life every day, daily life. All the objects and all these things are there only, but they exist only when we are awake. When we are sleeping, they do not exist to us, even though they are there. Is it a fact or not? So, in the same manner, if we are conscious, if we are awakened into the presence of Ishvara in us, then we are experiencing his presence. When we are not aware of him, then even though he is there, we cannot experience his presence. We are just like sleeping. Even though we are awake for all practical purposes, but we are just like as if we are sleeping because we are not aware of the presence of the Lord in us. So as long as we are aware of His presence, then we can have His presence, we can have His experience, just like how a, a piece of iron may get magnetic property in the presence of a magnet which is already magnetized before. This is also a fact known by us. You see, so this is the relationship. This is a very special relationship between a magnet and a piece of iron which is not yet magnetized. See? We have to understand that how this knowledge is attained by us. From where? What is the sequence? In which sequence we get this knowledge? It is not just by our intelligence, but there is a process, a sequence. What is that process? It is a process with the relationship between the teacher and the student. So, since the time of our birth, afterwards, gradually, when we are growing more in our age and understanding, then we learn. The process of learning requires a teacher for us. So we have to learn as a student from the teacher. But we never think of this process. We have used all these years, we have been using this process, making use of this process, but we are not aware of this process, how it is happening. Who is the teacher and who is the student? So this relationship of teacher and student is not just on personal level. It is not the person. This is what we have to understand. Suppose there is a teacher and his student, and the student got this, he learned, he received this knowledge from the teacher. And after some time, this student becomes a teacher to his student, isn't it? So, what had been transmitted to him, what had been received by him from his teacher, now it will be transmitted by him to his student. So now the student who received this from his teacher will become a teacher now to transmit it to his student. So the first one who taught this is called Guru, or the teacher, and the second person who received this from him is called a student. When the process continued, then the second one who was a student, now he will be a teacher, and the third one will be a student. So when you go on like this, observing, then you will realize that what is teacher or guru, it is not the person. This we can know when we keep observing. Now you consider me a teacher, but you consider me a teacher because you have been following this lesson. Okay. But how I could transmit this lesson? Because I have learned it from my teacher. Then the question is how my teacher got this? It means he also got from his teacher. So always there is the process, teacher and the student. This is there. So all this wisdom is transmitted through the relationship of teacher and student. So this relationship of teacher and student is permanent, always there. So who was the first teacher? The Lord himself. He is always there as the teacher. So so therefore he is there existing in the teacher, also in the student. That is what in our daily invocation, what we utter. That's what we always utter. Tan mamavatu, tat vaktaramavatu. That is what we utter every morning and evening. Samna mitraha. When we invoke the presence of the devas, then what we say? Tan mamavatu. May he protect me. May he protect my teacher. So this tradition of teacher and student, this is the tradition through which this knowledge is transmitted. And all this is in the presence of Ishvara, the Lord consciousness. That is what is given, explained here. So that is what is explained by Patanjali in the 25th aphorism. Now we continue to enter into the next aphorism, 26th aphorism. So in this aphorism, he says that he is the teacher of all the teachers. Who? Ishvara. That is what he says. Saha urvesham api guruhu kalena avacheda. Saha means that one who is Ishvara. He is the Lord of, he is the teacher of all. He is the teacher of all the teachers who were there before me, who existed before. That means our predecessors. Now, for example, I am teaching. So before this, I was a student and I had my teacher. And he was a student, he had his own teacher. Therefore, in this manner we trace back, then we can realize that it is Ishvara only who is the teacher even to our predecessors. He was the teacher. Because He is beyond time. That is what he says. He exists always. That is what he says. Since he is not afflicted by time, he is not afflicted by time. That is what he says in this aphorism. Aphorism 26, he says, since he is not afflicted by time, he exists even as the teacher of all those who lived in the past. So that is what he says. So he exists as the teacher. He exists always, Ishvara, the Lord of the universe. He exists always. So he exists as the teacher to those who existed before us. So it is a tradition. That means the one who is a student will become a teacher, and he will have his student. This is what is explained by Master Jwalkul in the passage which you find in all the 24 volumes of books which he has dictated to Alice A. Bailey. In this passage, he says, he gives a sentence in this. He says, from those whom I follow to those who follow me. So this sentence, he pointed out towards this tradition of teacher and student. From those whom I follow to those who follow me. So this is the tradition of teacher and student. So therefore, in this 26th aphorism, Patanjali says that this Ishvara, the Lord indweller, he can never be afflicted by time. He cannot be afflicted by time. Because he is existing beyond time. We, the beings, we exist in time. Because we have, for our existence, there is a limitation of time. But he exists always without any limitation of time. So the meaning of this aphorism 26 is that this Ishvara, he has created the impulse in us to practice yoga. Because of that only, we started to study yoga. Otherwise, we cannot. How we started to study yoga? Because of the impulse created by the Lord in us. That is the only reason. The Lord is there as Ishvara in every one of us. Therefore, he has created this impulse for us to study and practice yoga. And to realize this science, this wisdom. What is this realization? To realize that it is the Ishvara, the Lord, who is the indweller. So this is the realization. So just like how he has created this impulse in us, he has created the impulse in the teachers who were there in the past also. That is what he says. Therefore, he is the teacher of all teachers. Ishvara, the Lord, is the teacher of all teachers, Guru of all gurus. That is what he explains in this aphorism. To understand this, we have to take an example. When we trace back about our existence, you know, every one of us, to understand this clearly, we have to trace our existence. I was born. So I was born from my father. Therefore, he was born before me. So this is a fact. Otherwise, how can it happen? My father was born before me. So it is a fact. And he was born from his father. So his father was born before him. Like this, if we go on tracing back, then we will reach whom? We will reach the Lord consciousness. It is inevitable for us, we reach him only. So he is like the thread. He is like a thread because all this is arranged like the jewels, like the beads on this thread. So like that we have to understand. We got this knowledge, this wisdom. First of all, from whom we learn something? From our parents, basically. Everyone invariably learn the basics from the parents. Yeah. But unfortunately, some person feel, they think after they're grown up, when they are educated, they got some higher degrees in their studies, then those fellows may think one day, oh, I know more than my father and mother. They are not so much educated like me. Some persons may think like that. Maybe his father and mother, they have not gone to the higher education. They are not so much literate as this fellow. So he may think that he is more educated than his parents, than his father and mother. If he thinks like that, he is not educated, he is only literate. There's a difference between literacy and education. That's what our master always says. We generally do not think of this. We just don't find the difference between literacy and education. But these are two different aspects. education is different from literacy. What we get in the academic studies is only literacy, not education. If a person is educated, he never thinks that he knows better than his father. He never thinks he knows better than his elders. This is the first confirmation whether he is educated or only literate. So everyone invariably starts learning from his parents, father and mother. As a child will imitate his father and mother. He follows, he imitates, he learns. So like that, if we trace back, who is the first one from whom one started to learn is Ishvara only, from the Lord only. So ultimately, Ishvara is the teacher, is the Guru. Therefore, he is the principle, he had the seed of everything. He is the principle. So he, as the indweller, is Lord of the universe, Ishvara, he works as a teacher through the teacher who teaches. So if we realize this, that it is not we, it is only Ishvara, the Lord indweller is the teacher, then we can get into realization of his presence. So Ishvara is the highest. How can you say that the Lord is the first Guru for all of us, for everyone, first teacher? Because as soon as we have entered into this earthly life and have taken the birth, who was there who was continuously teaching us? When a child is born, immediately he starts to breathe. So how does he know that he has to breathe? Just we never think of this. Every one of us, when we were born as a new child, just we came out of the womb of the mother, a newly born child. Every one of us, you and me and every one of us. How is that we started to breathe in and breathe out? Who was teaching us? We started to, as soon as we have come out, we started to cry out. And in this process of crying, we started to breathe in and breathe out. When you observe any child, just after the child is born, you can understand this. But who has taught this child? Who is the teacher? Because how can the child know what to do? By chance, why does not he took carbon dioxide inside and gave out oxygen outside in the reverse manner? Why he started to take only oxygen and started to give out only carbon dioxide? You may say, oh, it is automatic. What is that automatic? That is what is called Ishvara, Lord. It is the Lord in us who starts to teach even from the very time of the birth. He is the teacher. How is it that when the first drop of milk was put on the tongue of the child, he started to sip and suck. Who taught this to him? The child. Who told the child to open the eyelids and look at the light? How can he know? As soon as we just put on the light, he opens his eyes, his eyelids, and starts looking at the light. How can he know that? He has to use his eyes to look. And suppose if we put something which is not smelling good, you can find a change in his face, His response towards a bad smell, foul smell. How can he know that that is a foul smell? How can he respond like that? It is because there is Ishvara in him who knows everything. And from this Ishvara, he gets that much of knowledge which is required at that time into his mind, which works through his senses, sense organs. So, who is the real teacher? It is the Ishvara who is working there. So it is this Ishvara who is never conditioned by time because he is ever existing. So it is he who teaches the child from the very beginning. It is he who teaches even our teacher from whom we received the wisdom later. It is he who taught our parents. It is who taught our fathers, forefathers. So, Ishvara, that is what he says in this aphorism, Saha Sarvesham api Guruhu. He is the teacher for all, for everybody, beyond the limitation of time. That is what he says in this aphorism. Because he cannot be limited by time. Because he is eternal, ever existing. And also, Ishvara is such a one who is never exhausted. That means he never disintegrates. The one who never disintegrates. One more thing which is a very subtle thing which we have to observe. From this aphorism what we know is that when we are born, for some time, as long as we were a child, directly it is this Ishvara, because we are a child is always completely in that consciousness. He is aware of the Lord consciousness. Child. Gradually, when he is grown up, then he gets away from this awareness and he gets more into human consciousness. That is why we need separate teacher. You see, we never think of this. Since the moment when we were born, how to react, what to do, it is directed and taught by Ishvara directly to us. That's what we can understand from this. This aphorism is very, every aphorism is very important and very significant, but this aphorism is, it brings us back to the point when we were born as a child. See, when we were born as a child, just you think of the moment when we started to breathe in and breathe out. Who told us? Is it the doctor fellow who told us? The child's doctor who made the delivery to our mother. He told us in our ear, oh child, you start breathing in and breathing out. Does he speak like that? The doctor? Or the father of the child said in the ears, my dear child, you start taking in oxygen and giving out carbon dioxide. Or the mother? Who told the child? It is this Ishvara, the indweller, the Lord consciousness. He is the indweller. So he is directly teaching the child. He is directing the child what to do. When you put some honey or some milk on the tongue of the child very immediately happily accepts this, takes it. When you put some bitter thing on the tongue of the child, maybe suppose you put some drops of coffee on the tongue of the child, immediately the child spit it out. You can make these experiments and find out how the child is behaving like that in a very natural manner. Who is teaching him? Teach the child. Because you cannot teach that stage. So it is this Lord Ishvara who is there within. He is teaching, he is the teacher. So therefore we have to know that everything that has developed in the child from the time of his birth, all these faculties which have developed because of the Lord, the indwellerness. And later, when the child started to grow, then he starts imitating the parents and he learns from the parents. Then the parents are the teachers. And then afterwards, since the child is already far from the awareness of the indweller, then he is sent to the school by the parents. Then he needs an external teacher to learn. He learns the details afterwards, but he learned the most essential things from the indweller as the teacher, the Lord, who is the teacher of all. He belongs to no religion, no sect. He belongs to everybody. We have to accept this. He is beyond all these differences. Indweller, the Lord Ishvara, the indweller, he is there as indweller in every being. For him, there is no difference. to which nation he belongs, to which religion he belongs. He never belongs to any religion or nation or anything. He belongs to the whole universe. The whole universe belongs to him. The whole universe belongs to the Ishvara only, the Lord. You may call Ishvara in this language. You may call the indweller in English. You may call in your own language. That makes no difference. But it is the indweller, the Lord who is there. He is eternal. He is the eternal teacher. He teaches from within ourselves. So he is the teacher of all teachers. That is what he says in this aphorism. So Purvesham api Guruhu. He is the teacher of our ancestors and their ancestors. He is the teacher, the Lord of the universe. So therefore, after we are grown up from the child stage to the adult stage, then we have come out from this awareness of Lord consciousness, and we came out to such point that we almost forgot his presence. We have to accept this fact. So once again we have to be reminded by an external teacher who was already taught by his teacher about the presence of the Lord consciousness in us. Then we are reminded again. You see. We have to correlate with the examples from our daily life. You see, in the kitchen, we take some flour of wheat or some wheat flour. We make, mix in some water, we make a lump of this wheat flour with water, and then compress this and then make into a shape which we may call bread or chapati in India, or you may call bread there, the wheat flour. So when you have baked it into a bread, then you call bread. So you put the bread and you put the wheat flour side by side. So what is that is contained in the wheat flour is the same thing which is the content of the bread also, isn't it? But after this is baked into a bread, then we call it a bread, no more we call it wheat flour. In the same manner, we are made up of that Ishvara, the Lord consciousness, all the beings. Because it is only from that only we got all our births in so many births. Again and again when we are born, and again when we learn after the births, then all this is from him only. So it is from him that we are born. It is from him that we grow. Again, when we go back, when we leave this body, we go into him only. That is Ishvara, the Lord consciousness. This we have to remember. This we have to realize. He is ultimate. He is ever existing. He is ultimate. So that is what is explained in this aphorism very clearly. See, in this 26th aphorism, Sarvesham api Guru, he is the teacher of all. A bar of iron can be made into a magnet. It needs, what does it need? If a piece of iron to be made into a magnet, it needs a magnet which is already transformed into a magnet before. So, the property of magnetism exists long before a piece of iron is transformed into a magnet. The same manner, a man requires a teacher who was taught by his own teacher previously. This we know. When we entered a school, then we find our teacher in the school who starts teaching us. Because this teacher, how he could teach us? Because he was taught previously by his teacher and got transformed into a teacher now. That is why he is ready to teach us. This is quite natural phenomenon. So, a man who is a teacher, where is the teacher existing in him? It is just like how the magnetism exists in a magnet which is magnetized before. In the same manner, the one whom we know as teacher, in him the real teacher is existing before he started to teach us. That is the phenomenon. So therefore, this we have to know that this real teacher, the one teacher, the real teacher is the Lord Ishvara, who was teacher to all those who existed before us. Our predecessors, they are called, who lived before us. So in this manner, the Lord consciousness in man is the one teacher who is called Guru, technically. Guru means, what is the meaning of this word Guru? That also we have to know clearly. Guru is not a person. Many people think that Guru is a person. No. This is a very significant word. Gu means darkness. Ru means the light which dispels the darkness. So we combine the two, Guru. It is a word of two letters only. Guru. Guru means the light. Ru means the light which dispels the darkness. Gu means darkness. So Guru. So he works through us and exists as the Lord consciousness in all. His utterance is what we call life. So what we call life is the utterance of this Ishvara from within, from inside. As Father, he utters us out through our mother. This is the process of our birth. It is very significant. It is very clearly explained in all the scriptures. So as Father, He means Ishvara. He utters us out through the mother. The whole life is known as a single utterance. It utters through us as our own breath, inhalation and exhalation. When linked up with the voice, it becomes audible, and it is what we call language, words and conversations. All these utterances, they form part of single utterance, and it is uttered as Om. That is why Om is the word, name and utterance of the Lord consciousness in us. That is what is explained by Patanjali. So here, in these two aphorisms, aphorism 25 and 26, in these two aphorisms, we have come to the understanding that it is Ishvara, the Lord consciousness in us, who is not bound or affected by the time limitation. He is beyond time, and he existed always as the indweller. He is the teacher of all teachers. He is the teacher of all beings. So we have to, why we practice, we start practicing yoga is to get stabilized in his presence, in his experience. That is our goal of entering into study of the science of yoga. So thank you all for your presence, and we will continue our study of these aphorisms in our next class and the next Sunday, coming Sunday. Thank you very much. Vasudeva.